Part of a series of government updates on China's development in the decades since the 18th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. The 20th CPC National Congress is expected to convene on October the 16th. Let's listen in.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to this press conference hosted by the Publicity Department of the CPC Central Committee. This is the 36th press conference under the theme China in the Past Decade. We will brief you on issues related to China's diplomacy in the new era. We are delighted to have with us today Vice Minister Guo Yezhou of the International Department of the CPC Central Committee and Vice Minister Ma Zhaoxu of the Foreign Ministry. They will also take up your questions. Now let me first give the floor to Vice Minister Guo Yezhou.
新闻界的各位朋友们，很高兴今天有机会向大家介绍新时代这10年党的对外工作。
It is my pleasure to brief you on the party's external work over the past decade.
是全党的事业。
The external work of the Communist Party of China involves the entire party. Since the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, General Secretary Xi Jinping has given a series of important expositions of major theoretical and practical issues on the party's external work, including its definition, purpose, content, and modus of branding.
是新时代做好党的对外工作的根本遵循和行动指南。
Those are fundamental guidance in doing the party's external work in the new era. Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, historic achievements have been made in the party's external work, featuring high-quality development. The international prestige of General Secretary Xi Jinping has been growing steadily. The global influence of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for new era has increased greatly. The CPC's international circle of friends has kept expanding. A historic shift has taken place in the relationship between the CPC and the world. Over the decade, we have been committed to rendering service to the important diplomatic agenda of General Secretary Xi Jinping and worked actively in support of the two establishes with reaffirmed commitment to the two upholds. Major events for world political parties have been successfully held, including the CPC in dialogue with World Political Parties High-Level Meeting and the CPC and World Political Party Summit. The keynote speeches made by General Secretary Xi Jinping have led trends of the times and human progress. It was observed by international participants that the speeches helped them see the future of both China and the world. Our work has focused on rendering service to General Secretary Xi Jinping's engagement at the highest level with other socialist countries, including the DPRK, Vietnam, Laos, and Cuba. China's relations with these countries have been able to make continued progress under the guidance of such engagement. We have held Shanghai Cooperation Organization Political Parties Forum, the SCO People's Forum, and the BRICS Political Parties Think Tanks and Civil Society Organization Forum. All of these proved to be explorative successes on serving major diplomatic events of General Secretary Xi Jinping, improving cooperation mechanisms, and creating greater energy. Over the decade, we have been committed to working creatively to make the CPC stories heard. Thematic briefings were organized following the 18th and 19th CPC National Congresses and all in between plenary sessions of the respective CPC Central Committees. Dozens of Chinese delegations were invited to some 100 countries and regions in face-to-face exchanges before more than 500 groups audience with over 10,000 political party leaders and personnel from all walks of life. In response to the growing interest of other political parties, briefings on the 4 volumes of Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, went into detail. These books have become an important source of reference for many political party leaders and asked them others to learn these books.
习近平新时代中国特色社会主义思想在地方的实践专题宣介会介绍
14 thematic briefings have been held with CPC committees on stories of the CPC practice of Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for new era. A total of over 600 international participants have been invited to experience firsthand the standing committee meetings of CPC committees at local level and activities of grassroots party organizations. Standing committee meetings of CPC committees at the county level and the villages congresses were live-streamed for viewers around the world. As some participants have commented, those meetings are truly results-oriented, demonstrating what democracy on the ground looks like. Over the decade, we have been committed to safeguarding China's national sovereignty, security, and development interests. Whenever it comes to issues related to China's core interests and major concerns, we in the party's external work have never failed to perform our duties. The positions of the Chinese side have been endorsed by many political parties, NGOs, and individuals with vision. They have spoken up for us and forged a mighty force of support. Amid the centenary celebrations of the Communist Party of China, more than 1,500 congratulatory messages poured in from over 600 political parties and organizations. We have launched new political party plus formats of interactions. Nearly 100 CPC delegations led by heads of CPC local committees have visited other countries to promote practical cooperation with the rest of the world. Over the decades, we have been committed to ensuring that the CPC's international circle of friends kept expanding. Our party maintains contacts of various forms with over 600 political parties and organizations. Being actively engaged in regional and international multilateral dialogues of political parties, the CPC strives to facilitate the building of a new model of international relations through fostering a new type of party-to-party relations, so as to try to strengthen the global partnership network of political parties for the improvement of the global partnership network as a whole. Some political party leaders, after assuming posts as president or prime minister, have paid special visits back to the international department. In their words, they felt like coming back home to enjoy gatherings with brothers and sisters. We have brought into full play the combined impact of political party diplomacy, public diplomacy, and people-to-people diplomacy. Through holding the dialogue of exchanges and mutual learning among civilizations and international academic exchanges, we have promoted Chinese civil society organizations and think tanks to engage in extensive interactions with their foreign counterparts. Over the decade, we have been committed to pooling strength to promote the building of a human community with a shared future. The CPC has always placed China's development within the context of human development and linked its destiny with that of people around the world. We sent letters to leaders of other political parties sharing China's practice and experience in COVID-19 prevention and control. We provided COVID-19 therapeutics to other political parties and medical supplies and technical aid to foreign political parties and international organizations in need. We established the political parties' consultation mechanism for Belt and Road Cooperation and set up and improved the Silk Road Think Tank Association and the Silk Road NGO Cooperation Network Forum, with a view to deepening policy coordination and people-to-people connectivity and pulling international consensus on promoting high-quality Belt and Road cooperation. By organizing the International Civil Society Solidarity Conference on the GDI and the commemorative event for the International Day of Peace, and vigorously promoting the implementation of the GDI and the GSI. We have worked with other political parties to promote the common values of humanity and contributed our wisdom and strength to the building of a better world. On the new journey ahead in the new era, the responsibility of the party's external work is great and its mission glorious. Great achievements can be made on this front and will be made. That concludes my introduction. Thank you.
Now, Vice Minister Ma Zhaoxu, you have the floor. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to attend the press conference on China's diplomacy in the new era on the eve of the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, has, in the historical process of advancing the great cause of socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era, led China's external work in forging ahead against all odds. We have withstood various risks and tests, overcome many obstacles and challenges, accomplished a great number of big, important undertakings, scored groundbreaking historic achievements on all fronts, and blazed a new path of major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. thus fostering a favorable external environment for achieving the two centenary goals and realizing the Chinese dream of great national renewal. With a keen appreciation of the prevailing trends in domestic and international development and profound reflections on the future of mankind, General Secretary Xi Jinping has carried forward the core principles and fine traditions of New China's diplomacy, broken new ground in major diplomatic theories and practices, and put forth a series of new philosophies, new propositions, and new initiatives that have distinct Chinese features, reflect the ethos of the times, and set the pace for mankind's progress and development. It is on that basis that Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy has been formed. Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy has 10 core principles, namely, upholding the authority of the CPC Central Committee as the overarching principle and strengthening the party's centralized, unified leadership over external work, advancing major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics to fulfill the mission of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, building a community with a shared future for mankind with a view to defending world peace and promoting common development, enhancing strategic confidence based on the foundation of socialism with Chinese characteristics, promoting Belt and Road cooperation under the principle of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits, pursuing peaceful development on the basis of mutual respect and win-win cooperation, fostering global partnerships by pursuing a broad-based diplomatic agenda, steering the reform of the global governance system under the principle of fairness and justice, upholding national sovereignty, security, and development interests with China's core interests as a red line, and developing a distinctive Chinese style of diplomacy by both drawing on fine traditions and adapting to changing times. Under the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy, we have focused on the central task of serving national rejuvenation and promoting the progress of humanity, grounded our work on the new stage in China's development, and grasped the new changes in China's relations with the world. We have pursued the greater good of humanity as well as our own success, stayed committed to peaceful development, advanced the building of a community with a shared future for mankind, and promoted a new type of international relations featuring mutual respect, fairness, justice, and win-win cooperation. China has all along been a builder of world peace, a contributor to global development, and a defender of the international order. We have advanced China's diplomatic agenda in a comprehensive, multi-level, and multifaceted way. We have carried out dialogue, exchanges, and cooperation with the rest of the world. To date, China has established diplomatic relations with 181 countries and entered into partnerships with more than 110 countries and regional organizations, thus making more and more friends and forming a network of partnerships covering the entire world. We have actively advanced the reform and development of the global governance system. We uphold the UN-centered international system and the international order underpinned by international law, act on true multilateralism, advocate peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy, and freedom as the common values of humanity. With real actions, we have supported the global efforts to fight the pandemic, tackle climate change, and pursue sustainable development. We have offered China's proposals and made China's contributions to addressing the global governance deficit and global challenges. We have firmly defended our national interests and dignity. On matters of principle, we have no room for concession. On issues related to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Xinjiang, Tibet, the South China Sea, and human rights. We have stood up with firm resolve and have safeguarded national sovereignty, security, and development interests. We have acted on a people-centered philosophy, keeping in mind the central tasks of the party and the country. We've been serving China's social and economic development and firmly safeguarded the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese citizens and entities abroad. We always keep close ties with the Chinese people. Looking ahead at our new journey, the 20th CPC National Congress will take forward and open up new horizons for China's diplomacy in the new era. We in the Foreign Service will rally closely around the Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, and fully appreciate the decisive significance of the establishment of both Comrade Xi Jinping's core position and the guiding role of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. We will further strengthen the full consciousness, enhance confidence in the past theory, system, and culture of socialism with Chinese characteristics, and write a new chapter of China's major country diplomacy in the new era. Now the floor is open. Please identify yourselves before asking the question.
Thank you. With Shenzhen TV. The past 10 years has seen China taking an active part in the reform and development of the global governance system. But there are also concerns that China wants to reinvent the wheel and change the rules-based international order. So how does China see its standing and role in global governance? Since the 18th CPC National Congress, under the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy, and with unprecedented breadth, depth, and intensity, we have taken part in global governance, contributed China's wisdom, offered China's proposals, and embraced China's responsibilities, winning acclaim from the international community. Bearing in mind the future of the entire humanity, General Secretary Xi Jinping put forward China's global governance philosophy at the UN General Assembly and on other important occasions, and advocated a commitment to openness and inclusiveness instead of seclusion and exclusion, to international law instead of seeking one's own supremacy, to consultation and cooperation instead of conflict and confrontation, and to progressing with the times instead of complacency. These propositions charted the course for the reform of the global governance system and international order, bringing positive energy to a world full of uncertainty. China has faithfully fulfilled its responsibility and mission as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. It has sent over 50,000 peacekeepers to UN peacekeeping operations and is now the second largest financial contributor to both the UN and its peacekeeping operations. In the face of the Ukraine crisis, the Korean Peninsula nuclear issue, the Iranian nuclear issue, Afghanistan, and other hotspots, China has all along promoted peace talks and advocated settling disputes through peaceful means. Taking on its shoulder the responsibility of promoting security for all, China has proposed the Global Security Initiative, which has won appreciation and support from more than 70 countries. China is among the first to meet the UN Millennium Development Goals. It has taken the lead in implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, accounting for over 70% of global poverty reduction. We have provided new opportunities to the world with our own development, contributing to more than 30% of world economic growth on average over the years. China has proposed the Global Development Initiative and set up the China-UN Peace and Development Fund in an effort to deepen South-South cooperation and inject strong impetus into the development of mankind. China has earnestly implemented the Paris Agreement on climate change. We have set for ourselves carbon emission peak and carbon neutrality targets, adopted new measures for nationally determined contributions, and played a crucial role in global cooperation on addressing climate change. China hosted COP15 to the Convention on Biological Diversity and set up the Kunming Biodiversity Fund with capital contribution, taking concrete actions in global ecological governance. We have taken an active part in global digital governance and proposed the Global Data Security Initiative to make the global digital governance system more just and equitable. Recently, we also launched the Food and Energy Security Initiatives, proposing China's solution to the difficult challenges facing the world today. I must point out that our efforts to push forward the reform of the global governance system are not to reinvent the wheel. Rather, they are to make the system fairer and more reasonable. The international order should only be based on the widely recognized international law, not the so-called rules set by a few countries, still less one's own rules imposed on others. No matter how the international landscape changes, China's commitment to practice true multilateralism remains unchanged. China's efforts to improve global governance remains unchanged, and China's actions to advance multilateral cooperation remains unchanged. Thank you.
您好，我是中央广播电视总台 CGTN 的记者。
With
我的问题是，
CGTN,
党的18大以来，以习近
my
平同志为
question
主要
is
代表
that
的中国共产党深入回答了一系
since
列
the
重大理论和
18th
实践问题， 实现了对中国
National
特色
Congress,
社
the
会主义
Chinese
建设规
Communists
律
with
认
Comrade
识
Xi
的新
Jinping
飞
as the
跃。
chief
那么我们也注意
representative
到了，在
have
外
given
交领域
profound
呢，也
answers
提
to a
出了
series
诸
of
如
major
构建人民
theoretical
共
and
同
practical
体等一
issues
系列
and
重要
achieved a new
创
leap
新
in
理念和倡
understanding
议。
the laws
我
of
想请问，
socialism
在
with
过去
Chinese
10年，中国外交
characteristics.
是如
On the
何贯
diplomatic
彻
front,
落
a
实这
string
些
of
理念和
important
倡议的？
and
谢谢。
innovative visions and initiatives have been proposed. How did the diplomatic service implement these visions and initiatives over the past decade?
以习近平同志为核心的党中央
Since the 18th Party
准确
Congress,
把握
the
世界
Party
发展
Central
大
Committee
势
with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core has gained a keen appreciation of the prevailing trends in international and domestic development, an accurate understanding of China's relations with the world, and given well-thought-out answers to such questions as what kind of world and what kind of international relations we should build, and under the new circumstances, what should China's diplomacy look like, and how do we conduct diplomacy,
理论创新
breaking new ground on the diplomatic front in both
面
theory
对
and
建设一个
practice.
什么样的世界，如何建设
Facing
这
the
个世界
question of our
时
times,
代之问，
namely what kind of world we
Jinping
should
总书记
build and how to build
在
it,
深入思
General
考
Secretary
人类
Xi
前途命
Jinping,
运的
on the
建设
basis of profound
提出了
reflections on the future of
构建
humanity,
人类命运共
proposed
同
the
体的
important
重要理
vision
念，
of building a community
为
with a
人
shared
类发展
future
进步
for
指
mankind,
明了
pointing the
前
way
进方向。
forward for the development and
构建
progress
人
of
类命运共同
humanity.
体是新时代
To build a
中国
community
外交的
with a
总
shared
目标
future is the
已
overarching
经成
goal
为
of
引领
China's
时代
diplomacy in the
潮
new
流的
era and
一
has
面光
become
辉
a
旗帜。
pace-setting endeavor, spearheading the
人类命
trend
运
of
共
the
同体的
times.
核心内涵
The core tenet of a
就是建设
community with a shared
持久
future
和
for
平
mankind is
普遍
building
安全
an open,
共同繁
inclusive,
荣
clean, and
开放
beautiful
包容
world that enjoys
清洁
lasting
美丽的
peace,
世界。
universal security, and common
中
prosperity.
国既是构建
China
人类命运共同
has
体的
not
倡导者，
only
更是
initiated
践行者。
but more importantly, acted on the vision of building a community with a shared future for mankind. Following the vision of building a global community of development with a shared future and the principles of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits, China has promoted Belt and Road Cooperation and signed more than 200 such cooperation documents with 149 countries and 32 international organizations. BRI cooperation has brought expressways to East Asia and a cross-sea bridge to the Maldives, turned Laos from a landlocked to a land-linked country, and made the China-Europe Railway Express an important lifeline in keeping global logistics stable and smooth. Last year, before the China-Laos Railway started full operation, in a letter to President Xi Jinping, Laos students studying in China wrote to President Xi to express appreciation. In the face of a once-in-a-century pandemic, we have stood in the forefront of international cooperation against COVID-19, sharing China's containment protocols and diagnostic and treatment plans with 180 countries and over 10 international and regional organizations, sending 37 medical expert teams to 34 countries, providing over 2.2 billion doses of vaccines to more than 120 countries and international organizations, and performing a global emergency humanitarian operation of a scale unseen since the founding of New China, all in an effort to build a global community of health for all. Our efforts to build a community with a shared future for mankind have received growing welcome and support from the international community and quickly grown from a mainly solo show to a chorus joined by all. When President Xi Jinping delivered the keynote speech entitled Working Together to Build a Community with a Shared Future for Mankind in Geneva, the over 800 guests in the audience burst into applause more than 30 times during the 47-minute speech. UN Secretary-General Guterres noted that the purpose of multilateralism is to build a community with a shared future for mankind. The vision of a community with a shared future for mankind is sufficiently reflected in the documents of the UN and other international organizations, and active efforts are being made to advance the building of a China-Africa community with a shared future, China-Arab states community with a shared future, China-Latin America community with a shared future, China-ASEAN community with a shared future, and China-Central Asia community with a shared future. Since last year, General Secretary Xi Jinping has proposed the Global Development Initiative and the Global Security Initiative, further enriching the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind. The world is now witnessing accelerated changes unseen in a century and has entered a new period of turbulence and transformation. The changes of the world, of our times, and of history are exhibiting new features. We will follow the firm leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, make innovations on the basis of what has worked in the past, and work tenaciously to advance the innovation of both diplomatic theories and practices, and open up new horizons for major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. Thank you. With China Daily, we noted that foreign political parties are very interested in the book series Xi Jinping, The Governance of China. In your engagements with foreign political parties and leaders, how do they comment on Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era, and which part of it is of particular interest to them?
Thank you for your question. A decade on into the new era, we in the party's external work have been most impressed by the fact that more and more political party leaders are paying attention to China and the Communist Party of China. While interested in China's achievements, they have given more attention to the Chinese path and system. While delving into China's 6 secrets for success, they have focused more on the decisive role played by the CPC. While looking at what Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for new era means to China, they have cared more about what it means to the world. Many political party leaders believe that this thought has elevated the theoretical results on economic and social development to the level of rules underpinning the progress of human society. They believe that it has depicted a tangible path towards the great aspiration of humanity. It has ignited the new dream of all humanity in a common pursuit of a better life. And it has contributed wisdom and strength to the lofty cause of human peace and progress. Some political party leaders believe that this thought is Marxism of our era. While thinking highly of this thought, many political party leaders have applied this thought to the practice. For instance, the 4+2 working method for deliberation and disclosure in China's rural areas have been applied by many political party leaders around the world. To be more specific, political party leaders are interested in the following aspects. First, the public goods that the CPC provides to the international community. They believe that the visions proposed by General Secretary Xi Jinping, including a common human community with a shared future, the Belt and Road Initiative, the GDI and the GSI, constitute new thresholds for the development of China and the world, show the ideal of building a better world, and demonstrate the global vision and sense of responsibility of Chinese communists in the new era. Second, values and philosophy. In all the innovations of this thought, they believe that people-centered approach, targeted poverty alleviation, common prosperity, the whole process people's democracy, are part and parcel for the new model for human advancement created by the Chinese people under the leadership of the CPC. Common values for humanity, including peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy, and freedom, have charted the course for human development in the future, are important for upholding multilateralism and promoting the building of a new type of international relations. Third, the governance experience of the CPC. They believe that under the leadership of the CPC, what used to be impossible in China has become possible. Such experience may serve as a source of inspiration for political parties to address problems in governance and other developing countries, to resolve conundrums in their pursuit of modernization. They look forward to strengthening the sharing of governance experience with the CPC. Fourth, courage and wisdom of the CPC in governing itself. More and more political parties are paying close attention to our practice and experience in exercising full and strict party self-governance and combating corruption. Many Marxist political parties agree that the two establishes is the most important political achievement of the Communist Party of China in the new era. They believe that the insights and practice on self-reform of the CPC have enhanced the consciousness in thinking, theory, and active actions of Marxist parties on building and strengthening themselves over the decades. In response to the growing interest of other political parties, we have been earnestly introducing this important thought. We believe that political parties in every country should make independent explorations on governance in light of their own conditions. Every responsible exploration should be respected. We stand ready to strengthen dialogue and exchanges on a voluntary basis. We don't import foreign models, nor do we export the Chinese model. We set great store by mutual learning, and we have learned from foreign parties many meaningful insights and explorations. The aim of such dialogue and exchanges is to improve the governance capacity of our respective countries and jointly promote and improve global governance. Thank you.
下一个问题，中间第二排那位男士。
With Global Times. In recent years, the International Department of the CPC Central Committee hosted multiple global high-level political parties meetings. The party's external work is getting increasingly active and its influence is rising. Can Minister Guo share with us the role of the party's external work in China's overall diplomacy?
Thank you for your interest in the major events of party diplomacy. As I've said in my opening remarks, the CPC maintains contacts with over 600 political parties and organizations around the world in various forms. The CPC, in dialogue with World Political Parties high-level meeting in November 2017, the CPC and World Political Parties Summit in July 2021, and other high-level global political parties meetings shows how broad the CPC's international circle of friends is, and the CPC's proposal is widely responded by foreign political parties. With the personal attention and participation of General Secretary Xi Jinping, these high-level meetings have showcased the strength, function, and role of the party's external work. General Secretary Xi Jinping has noted that the party's external work is one of the party's important fronts, important component of China's overall diplomacy, and an important manifestation of the major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, focusing on achieving national renewal and promoting human progress, the party's external work have made important progress. Making many good friends, we have promoted the development of state-to-state relations. We have strengthened exchanges with political parties both in and out of government to promote the steady growth of state-to-state relations in the spirit of seeking common ground, mutual respect, and mutual learning. We've deepened solidarity and cooperation with parties of developing countries, stepped up exchanges with political parties of developed countries, foster a new type of international relations by a new type of party-to-party relations, and a global partnership network by a global partnership network of political parties. Staying committed to the correct political orientation, we have upheld the party's governance, security, and the system of socialism with Chinese features. The party's external work has shouldered its responsibility and spoken up with foreign political parties, think tanks, social organizations, and visionaries on the issues touching on our core interests and major concerns to uphold the country's sovereignty, security, development interests, and create a favorable external environment. Serving the people wholeheartedly, we have facilitated the national development strategies. Bearing in mind the new development stage, new development philosophies, to foster a new development paradigm, the party's external work have deepened the party plus exploration and strengthened alignment of development strategies, policies, and mechanisms through party-to-party channel to meet the needs of social economic development, further enriched the contents of exchanges, and more effectively contributed to serving the cause of the party and the country. Seeking progress for humanity, we have promoted the building of a community with a shared future for mankind. We have shouldered the responsibility as a major party, stepped up communication and mutual trust with political parties from across the world, seeking commonality, and poured the political parties' wisdom and strength to promote the advance of human civilization while making the international system more fair and just and practice true multilateralism. On the journey to build a modern socialist country, we will make more progress. Please continue to follow our work. Thank you.
谢谢。路透社提问 Chinese President Xi Jinping has asked Chinese diplomats to have more fighting spirit, 斗争精神, when dealing with other countries. Critics say that bilateral relations have suffered as a result. Going forward, will China continue with this combative approach in the next 5 years? Thank you.
路透社记者，习近平主席要求中国外交官在与其他国家打交道时，要有更多的斗争精神。 有人说，双边关系因此受到了影响。我的问题是，未来5年，中国外交是否会继续坚持斗争？
我来回答这个问题。
Let
维护
me
国家主权、
answer this question.
安全、
Upholding national sovereignty, security,
是中国
and
外交的
development
神
interests
圣使命。
is the sacred mission
党
of
的18大以来，
China's diplomacy.
在以习近
Since
平
the
同志为核
18th
心的党
National
中央
Congress of the CPC,
坚强领导
under the
下，
strong leadership of the
我们以
Central
更
Committee
坚
with
定的
Comrade
意
Xi
志
Jinping at its core,
更扎实
with
的行
great
动
resolve, solid
更
actions,
有力
and
的举措
strong efforts,
构
we
筑
have
起捍卫
built
国家利益
a
和民族
solid
尊
line
严
of
的
defense for
坚强
national
防线，
interests and dignity.
把国家发展
We have
和
taken
安全的主
the
动权
initiative to
牢牢
safeguard
掌握在
national
自己的手中。
development and security.
我们旗帜鲜明地
We have
捍卫
categorically
一个中国原则，
defended the One
实
China
现同
principle.
9个国
We
家
have
建交
established and
复交。
resumed diplomatic
在
relations
台湾
with
问题
9
上，
countries.
坚决
We have
回击
pushed back
挑衅
provocations on the Taiwan
巩固
question,
了国际社
and we
会
have
一个
consolidated
中国的
the
共识，
international consensus on
有
One
力
China.
左外部势
We
力，
have thwarted
干预
external interference
香港事务，
in Hong Kong affairs,
巩固香港
thus
由
enabling
乱
Hong
到治
Kong
的
to
良好
shift
态势，
from chaos to
以
good
事实真
governance.
相说
With
穿
solid
涉疆
facts,
谎
we
言，
have debunked
挫败以疆制华
disinformation
的
about
政治
Xinjiang, defeated the
稳
attempt
步推进
to use
南
Xinjiang
海
to
行为
contain China.
准则
We
的
have
磋商，
steadily
维
moved
护了
forward
南海
COC
局势
consultations
总体
and
的稳定。
upheld the overall stability in the
我
South
们
China
抵制
Sea.
疫情政治化、
We have
病毒
stood
标签化
against
的逆流。
the
80多个国家
attempts
以
to
制裁、
politicize
发表声明
COVID
等方式
situation.
反
Over
对
80 countries
将
have written
病毒
letters
溯
and
源问
issued
题
statements
正
to oppose
我们
politicizing
在
the
联合国
origins
人权理事
tracing.
会
At the
联大
UN
三委
Human Rights Council and
连续
Third
7次
Committee of the
挫败
UN General
反
Assembly,
华
we
人权
have
行动，
7 times in a
形
row
成近
defeated
100多个国家
anti-China
支持
efforts.
中国
Over
正义立场，
100 countries have
反对
supported
以
China's
人权
just
问题为借
positions
口
and
干涉
expressed their
中国内政
opposition
的
to using
强大
human
声
rights
势，
as the pretext to
经过不懈
interfere
努力，
in
被
other
非法
countries'
拘押
internal
1000
affairs.
多天的孟晚
With
舟女士
relentless efforts,
平
Ms.
安
Meng Wanzhou,
回到
who's been illegally detained for over 1,000 days,
我们开
has
展
returned
外交斗
the
争，
motherland safe and sound.
针对的
On the
是
diplomatic front,
损害
we
中
fight
国国
against
家利
the
益
rhetoric
和
and
民
moves
族
that
尊
harm
严的言
China's
行，
national interests and
维护
national
的
dignity.
是自身正当
We
权
uphold
益，
our legitimate
反对
rights
的
and interests.
是霸
What
权、
we oppose
霸道、
is
霸凌，
hegemony and bullying.
伸张的
What we stand
是
for
国际
is
公平
international
正义。
fairness and justice.
我们用行动告诉世界，
What
中
we
华
want
民
to
族
tell the world
任
is
人宰割的时代
long gone
早已
are the
一去
days
不复返，
when the Chinese nation is bullied
没
by
有任何
others.
力量
No force
能够阻挡
can hold back
中国发展
China's
前进的步伐。
development.
我们有
We
主动
have the
迎战的
confidence
底气，
To meet the challenges,
不畏强权的骨气，
to defy power
维护
politics,
正义的志
and
气。
to uphold justice.
中华民族
We
下不倒，
Chinese will
压不
not
垮，
capitulate
不怕
in the
苦力，
face of pressure.
不信邪。
We are not afraid of the
我们
evils.
绝不会坐
We
视
will not sit
国家
and
利益
do nothing
受损。
when our national
任
interests
何人
are harmed
都
by
不要
others.
指望
No one
中国
shall
吞下
expect us
损害自身利益
to
的苦果。
take the bitter
前进道路
fruit
上，
of
中国外交
seeing our
将
own
继
interests
续
being harmed.
披荆斩
Going
棘，
forward,
勇
we
毅
on the
前行，
diplomatic front will
始
continue
终做
to be
国家
devoted
和人民利益的
guardians of the
忠诚卫
interests
士。
of
谢谢。
the country and our people.
下一个
Thank
问题。
you. Next question, please.
第三排这位女士。
Thank you. Question from CNA. Chinese President Xi Jinping has recently made his first overseas trip in more than 2 years, attending the SCO summit and meeting leaders from Central Asia. Some observers have characterized this visit as China's attempt to boost cooperation as a counterweight to the West. What is your comment on this? Also, do China's top leaders have plans to meet their counterparts from other regions like the US in person, overseas in the coming months? Thank you.
亚洲新闻台，中国国家主席习近平近2年多来首次出访，出席了上合组织峰会，并会见了中亚领导人。一些观察家将此访描述为中国加强合作以制衡西方的一种方式。您对此有何评论？中国最高领导人是否有计划在未来几个月内与来自其他地区，比如美国的领导人在海外亲自会面？
正如您所说，本月中旬
Indeed, as you said, in the middle of this month, General Secretary Xi Jinping visited Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and attended the 22nd SCO Summit, and the visit was a full success. General Secretary Xi Jinping stayed in the two countries for 48 hours, had a tight schedule, which included nearly 30 events and 10 bilateral meetings. His visit has given a strong boost to development of SCO and China's relations with the related countries. As to the external engagement of Chinese leaders in the next stage, information will be released once we have them. You may like to follow the press conferences of the Foreign Ministry. During the past decade, General Secretary Xi Jinping has taken the lead and personally been involved in head of state diplomacy that has yielded fruitful deliverables. General Secretary Xi Jinping proposed building a new type of international relations during his visit to Russia in March 2013, and the Belt and Road Initiative at Kazakhstan and Indonesia in autumn 2013. At the UN General Assembly 2015, he put forth the ideal of building a community with shared future for the mankind. And in 2017, at the UN headquarters in Geneva, he articulated why and how the humanity shall build a community with a shared future. At the 76th UNGA debate and 2022 annual meeting of the Boao Forum for Asia, he put forth the Global Development Initiative and Global Security Initiative, which present China's solutions to enhancing global governance. As General Secretary Xi Jinping has said, a community with a shared future for humanity must be built through concrete actions. Over the past decade, General Secretary Xi had 41 visits abroad, covering 69 countries on 5 continents. He also received over 100 heads of state and government in China. At one point, he had 4 overseas visits in a month and chaired over 70 bilateral and multilateral events in the week. Since the onset of the COVID pandemic, General Secretary Xi Jinping has actively carried out cloud diplomacy, having 181 phone calls with world leaders and heads of international organizations and attending 78 diplomatic events via video link. This January, China hosted the Beijing Winter Olympics, during which General Secretary Xi hosted 20-plus bilaterals with visiting world leaders. Our guests all found their trip to Beijing a rewarding one. This June, General Secretary Xi chaired via video link the 14th BRICS Summit and the high-level dialogue on global development. This has brought BRICS cooperation to a new phase of high-quality development, taken solidarity among emerging markets and developing countries to a new height. General Secretary Xi once said that traveling around the globe, though a tiring job, has won China many more friends. As Chinese netizens put it, they are seeing the world with President Xi. These are only a few examples of the irreplaceable role and strategic value of head of state diplomacy. General Secretary Xi has made friends all over the world and shared with them China's stories. He has kept a 30-plus-year friendship with his Iowan friends, making a point that heart-to-heart communication brings long-lasting friendship. He cited the tremendous changes taking place in the small village of Liangjiahe as a microcosm of the sea change brought by the 100-year journey of the CPC, and used the metaphor, "Only the shoe wearer knows whether the shoe fits or not," to illustrate that China has chosen a development path suited to its national conditions. These gestures have deepened the international community's understanding of China, demonstrated his charisma as an approachable leader that values friendship and treats others with sincerity, and reflected his internationalist vision of helping others to succeed while pursuing one's own success. Next question, please.
With Phoenix TV, my question is about inter-party exchanges. How does the CPC carry out exchanges with the governing parties of other socialist countries and other Marxist left-wing political parties? Can you give us more information? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Political parties are the principal players of the political life in most of the countries, fountainheads of political decision-making, pace-setters of public opinions, and representatives of social consensus. The special and important status of governing parties in socialist countries has determined the vital significance of dialogue between these governing parties. The commitment to the leadership of communist parties and to the exploration of socialist paths compatible with one's national conditions are the defining features of the exchanges between the CPC and the governing parties in socialist countries. The multi-layered exchanges between our party with the governing parties in the DPRK, Vietnam, Laos, and Cuba include mutual visits at the highest level, sending special envoys to each other, briefing each other on major issues, exchanges between party organizations and at various levels and counterparty departments, and theoretical seminars. Such highest-level strategic communication provides defining political guidance to the development of state-to-state relations. Our party also carry out active exchanges with Marxist political parties in other countries, among other progressive forces. We have commemorated the bicentenary of the birth of Karl Marx with other Marxist political parties, hosted CPC and World Marxist Political Parties Forum, and held theoretical exchanges and policy dialogues, so as to jointly renew our commitment to our original aspirations, missions, and cultural roots. We have carried out such dialogue and exchanges with governing parties in other socialist countries and Marxist political parties to serve the development of national relations, deepen people-to-people friendship, and promote our practical cooperation across the board. Such exchanges and dialogue can help us better understand and grasp the rules of governance of communist parties, of the building of socialism, and of the development of human society. We respect the independent explorations of all political parties, and we don't interfere into the internal affairs of other parties, nor do we meddle in the internal affairs of other countries through party-to-party interactions. With dialogue and exchanges, we strive to jointly explore the development path of socialism suitable in light of our respective national conditions and ways to adapt Marxism to our national context and to our times. Through such dialogue with the governing parties of other socialist countries and Marxist political parties, we feel more strongly than ever that Marxism is full of vigor and vitality, and socialism enjoys a promising future. Thank you.
With Xinhua News Agency, my question is about CPC's exchanges with political parties in other developing countries, especially China's neighboring countries. What results have these exchanges produced?
This is also related to the party's external work. China is linked by mountains and rivers, close people-to-people exchanges, and a similar culture with our neighboring countries. This is a distinctive advantage for dialogue with political parties of neighboring countries. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, under the policy of amity, sincerity, mutual benefit, and inclusiveness, the CPC has exchanged visits, letters, and held online and face-to-face activities with political parties of neighboring countries to act on the important consensus on advancing bilateral relations between the top leaders of the countries. This has created a new chapter of mutual respect, good neighborliness, mutual learning, and mutual support between the CPC and parties of neighboring countries. We have earnestly promoted the major ideals, proposals, and philosophies put forward by General Secretary Xi Jinping. Implementation in neighboring countries. Second, we have facilitated the dovetailing of development strategies, major projects cooperation through the party channel to help improve people's lives and synergize the BRI with the development strategies of neighboring countries, and promoted the implementation of RCEP and increased the converging interests of countries within our region. Third, we have conducted mutual learning of governance experience with parties of neighboring countries on party building, economic growth, poverty alleviation, and other topics of common interest. We have exchanged and conducted mutual learning of governance experience to enhance our governance capacity. We have also conducted close collaboration on bilateral and multilateral dialogue channels to build a new type of international relations featuring mutual respect, fairness, justice, and win-win cooperation to improve regional and global governance. Exchanges and engagement with political parties of developing countries is an important pillar of the party's external work. They account for over 75% of the political parties we maintain regular contacts with, as China and other developing countries have similar histories, development tasks, and aspiration for regional and world peace and security. We have a lot of topics of exchanges. The principle of sincerity, real results, affinity, and good faith, and the greater good strongly resonated by the political parties of developing countries. In our engagement with political parties of developing countries, we have supported each other's effort in exploring a development path in line with our national conditions and have had in-depth exchanges on poverty alleviation, rural rejuvenation, and green development to improve people's lives. We have promoted practical cooperation under BRI to promote regional development and jointly address challenges in economic growth in the world, and expanded development scope to pursue common growth and prosperity. We have also conducted regional party dialogues with political parties in Africa, CELAC, CEE, Arab states, Central Asia, and the Pacific Island countries, through which we have shared our governance experience and jointly rise up to the global challenges. The proposals and public products put forward by General Secretary Xi Jinping, such as Community with a Shared Future for Mankind, the GDI, GSI, have been well received by political parties of developing countries. China will always be a member of developing countries, and the CPC will always be the good friends, buddies, and partners of political parties of developing countries.
Thank you. With Southern Metropolis Daily. Now, more and more Chinese citizens and companies are going abroad. When they run into difficulties, the first thing that comes to mind is the motherland and seeking help from China's missions abroad. What has been done by the diplomatic service to serve the people and protect their lawful rights and interests? Since the 18th CPC National Congress, with growing people-to-people exchange between China and the world, and with the expansion of China's overseas interests, we have had an ever heavier task in the people-centered diplomacy. Upholding Chinese Communists' fundamental goal of wholeheartedly serving our people, we protect the Chinese nationals overseas from wind and rain. The motherland always provides strong and solid backing to her sons and daughters. We have actively contributed to the new development paradigm and facilitated people-to-people exchanges between China and other countries. We have coordinated COVID response and economic and social development with high efficiency, overcome difficulties inflicted by the pandemic, and built fast tracks for essential personnel and green lanes for emergency supplies. Our consular service network has been improved to better resolve difficulties and problems of great concern to the people. The over 280 Chinese diplomatic and consular missions extend consular services to overseas Chinese around the globe. We have transformed and upgraded consular services, significantly slashed fees for Chinese nationals to apply consular certificates, and explored online video notarization as an innovative approach. We introduced the China Consular Services app, rolled out more convenient services including online application of passports and traveling certificates overseas, online verification of consular legalization, and online appointment of marriage registration, all in an effort to harness the internet to make things easier for the people. The value of Chinese passports is steadily rising, and it is more convenient for Chinese citizens to travel overseas for visits, tourism, and doing business. As some Chinese netizens put it, a Chinese passport can both take you to the world and bring you home safely. We have been strengthening the system for the protection of Chinese nationals and interests overseas to ensure the safety of overseas Chinese citizens and entities. Our consular service hotline 12308 runs 24/7 for Chinese nationals overseas, bringing consular protection to Chinese citizens wherever they are. Over the past decade, we have carried out over 10 emergency operations to evacuate overseas citizens. After the Ukraine crisis broke out, we opened up several life-saving corridors in just a few days and successfully evacuated over 5,200 Chinese. Since the onset of COVID-19, Chinese missions abroad have given out Spring Festival gift packs and health kits to Chinese nationals in over 170 countries and helped more than 4.6 million overseas Chinese get vaccinated through the Spring Sprout program. The Chinese embassy in the U.S. once received a letter from a disabled Chinese student asking for help, and the embassy sent the student a health kit immediately. Moving to tears, the student thanked the motherland with sign language. Bearing in mind the mission of people-centered diplomacy, we have taken concrete actions to strengthen the system for the protection of our nationals' interests overseas and make all-out efforts toward that end. Thank you. With Beijing Youth Daily, General Secretary Xi pointed out that to understand China today, one must gain a good understanding of the CPC. We know that telling a good story of the CPC is an important task of the International Department of the CPC Central Committee. Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you for your question. As China moves closer to the center of the world stage, the theoretical and practical innovations have gained more attention internationally. In particular, foreign political parties wish to learn more about the thoughts and actions of the CPC. They have more observations and thoughts into the governance practice of the CPC. They wish to learn and hear more from the CPC. Therefore, it is important for the party's external work to carry out its duty, leverage its strength, respond to the foreign interests, and provide more information to tell the stories of the CPC. We have told stories of General Secretary. Among the stories of the CPC, the most important ones are those of General Secretary Xi Jinping. In recent years, in response to the interests of foreign political parties, we have invited many leaders of political parties to visit places where General Secretary Xi Jinping once worked or paid personal attention to, either online or in person. For example, the Shibadong village of Xiangxi, Hunan Province, Xiaqi, and other villages, so that the foreign party leaders got to see for themselves how the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era came into being and is put into practice. We tell stories in response to the needs of the foreign side. We have listened attentively to the foreign political parties to learn and understand their areas of interest, so as to provide them with the information they need. For example, many foreign political parties wish to learn the CPC's major political agenda. We have held hundreds of briefings on the 18th and 19th party congresses and the Central Committee plenary sessions in between. As many developing countries and the political parties wish to learn the CPC's governance experience, we have, together with relevant provinces and municipalities, held over a dozen thematic briefings on the stories of the CPC practice of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, on targeted poverty alleviation, common prosperity, and new development philosophies, sharing not only our thoughts, but also our practice, and what are the outcomes and improvements. We've told stories of the ordinary people, the efforts of the Chinese people under the leadership of the party to realize their dreams is the most brilliant of the CPC stories. The leaders of foreign political parties are interested in not only the overarching design, but also the day-to-day operation of the CPC's governance. Therefore, we have live-streamed online the CPC's standing committee meetings at county levels and village congress, and invited the ordinary party members and ordinary people to tell their own stories, demonstrating the democratic and scientific decision-making process of the CPC. This has also demonstrated the tangible efforts of how the people lifted themselves out of poverty, and the foreign political parties get to understand the source of the CPC's capability and advantage of socialism with Chinese characteristics. In the new era, we will have a lot of more good stories, and we will continue our efforts to make the good stories heard.
Thank you, Minister Guo and Minister Ma. Thank you for coming. That concludes our press conference. Thank you.